Best of r/ Tales from Tech Support episode 77. Subscribe for edit videos daily. Happened recently and resolved, for good hopefully, today. Short but sweet. In the past an issue was reported that the power adapter for one of our site's phones had sparks flying out of it. Simple fix, just had our guy over there swap out the power adapters and everything was peachy. Or so we thought. Months pass and we get a ticket in that their PC is no longer connecting to the internet. Immediately after they say they solved the issue by swapping out the Ethernet cable that went to a little switch that connects to their phone and then to the PC from there. You might see where this is going. Boss sends me out there and we are just thinking they fucked with the switch and kicked it around with their feet. Nope. They destroyed the phone's adapter by kicking it or whatever with their feet and sparks fly out of it when you move it. It's a neat little detail they left out. As a temporary fix I electric tape the shit out of it and move things further away from their violent feet until I can return with a replacement. Drill/screws and mountable zip ties. The cherry on top was today when I got done swapping the adapter out and mounting things far from their feet and the person responsible for the damage tells me, by the way, sparks have been coming out of that. You don't say. LOL. Thank you. Next. New user. A few hours after putting in his request midway through the approval process on his first day, where is my new phone? It was requested over a month ago. I am a new associate, I need a phone before I can start. Me. Well, it's not been approved yet and the iPhone 8 Plus is on back order without a ship date. If you want to switch it we can, the 8 is set to ship on the 28th. New user. Fine, switch it to the 8 so I can get it faster. Me. The 8 is on back order too and will ship on the 28th. If you wait just a bit you might be able to get the 8 Plus sooner once they have a ship date. New user. So after I get the 8 and the 8 Plus comes in stock I can get that then. Me. No. If you wait it should be back in stock soon. New user. I can't wait, I need it now. Me. Okay, I've gotten it ordered, be aware it's going to ship on the 28th. Thank you. Next. 22 years ago. TL. Doctor slowly but surely. $me. Obvious. $bosses. Clueless but for once not totally heartless. $client. Should do something about their infrastructure. So, I find myself in an empty building. Task at hand. Make as many desktops usable again. Put floppy in desktop. Power on and wait for $image casting software to find the backend server. Timeout. Check cable. We have light and blinks. Let's try again. Reset and wait. Timeout. Not good. Follow the cable to the wall outlet. Wait, what? There is no outlet. The cable goes into a hole in the floor. I look at my map with the locations of 30 odd other desktops that I am supposed to reimage. Not today. That is already obvious with the state the infra is in. $me. Hi $bosses. I am sorry to inform you this will take longer than expected. $bosses. You just arrived and you already start complaining? I explain what I found on the very first desktop. $bosses. Oh, okay, we see. Just handle as many as you can and we'll contact client. It will take more time and thus cost more than we originally offered. Little did they know, I decide to find out where the network closet is to see if it is really as bad as I think. Okay, not too shabby. At least they took the time to put in a rack and some cable guiding so I won't break my neck when walking around in there. I decide to do a test. I haul over the desktop I was trying to reimage and connect it directly to the switch. Power on. Boots. Client starts reimaging. So, we seem to have a cabling problem. I spot another desktop that also needs reimage. Not too far away. Put in floppy. Power on. Timeout. Right. Reset. Run back to the switch rack and wait. A switch port starts blinking slowly and after some odd 30-second becomes solid, then showing blinking activity you'd expect. Not good. 30 seconds for auto negotiate? What can be wrong? Is the switch that slow? Then I suddenly freeze. I check the cable that is going to the desktop, without a wall outlet again. WTF. This is Cat3. Technical explanation. Networking cable is specified for a certain switching speed. That determines how fast you can put data through it. At the time of writing, we are in a transition period between 10 bit/second 100 bit/sec. Now to prevent everybody from having to change out everything networking, Switch manufacturers and network card manufacturer made devices that would work at either 10 or 100 bit/sec. Whenever two of them connected, they would throw a few packets on the line at 100 and if no answer, at 10 and negotiate a speed they can work on. For 100 bit/sec you also needed cable capable of that speed, which would be marked Cat5. Cat3 cable however is limited at 10 bit/sec. Faster will not work. Rink. $me. Hi bosses. Can you sit down first? $bosses. What again? $me. They're cabling plain out $CK. We have old cables in here that cannot handle the speed. $bosses. Does that mean you cannot do anything then? $me. It means I will need to switch down the network speed of the cards down to 10 bits so at least it will connect. Some systems I can haul to the network closet and patch directly with proper cables. Expect at least another day extra work for the imaging and what it takes to rip and replace the entire cabling in this building. $bosses. This was never mentioned when we got this project. We will see what we can negotiate. For now, good job on finding the actual problem. Continue with what you do. For a split second I thought they actually gave me a compliment. Then I realized I just gave them a load of extra business. Not to mention, they would expect me to handle all of that with this week and a half of holiday during which the building was closed. Never mind. Surely enough, after adjusting a setting for the network card on the boot floppy, all other desktops happily booted and re-imaged first attempt, albeit slowly. The upside was, I could do more desktops at the same time without saturating the imaging server. The cabling was replaced over time, during school hours, because our company actually put some gutters and wall outlets, you know, like professionals, meant we could leave the original hole-in-floor cabling in place, then simply patch over the desktop at hand and remove the old cable. Thank you. Next. Good day r/Tales from Tech Support. From a long-time lurker. Here is a call I had to deal with last night. I work in a $big corp and right before the end of my shift I get a call from $client who needs help with a web app. $Pouting. Thank you for calling tech support. My name is Pouting. Can I have your red? $client. Yes, it's XXXXXXXX. $Pouting. How can I help you today? $client. Listen, I forgot my work laptop at work, and I was able to log in to web app from my home PC and I just wanted to know if you can help me quickly generate a report for a customer. Pouting. Sorry, I'm afraid I cannot help and also you shouldn't be accessing web app from your home PC. $client. But why? Pouting. Because you aren't supposed to. $client. Please, I just need this report. Pouting. But you aren't allowed to. I'm sorry, I cannot help you. $client. But why? Pouting. Because you are breaching your agreement by taking client data outside business computers and are bray. $client. Okay, bye. Click. Thank you. Next. This just happened. I'm a supervisor of a help desk at a college. We have a few students doing level 1 help desk stuff while we do the more complicated stuff, but we are always a few feet away from the students. So a student walks up to the desk and is greeted by our students. The walk-up student very aggressively rests on the counter. I knew this was going to be an interesting one, so I stop what I'm doing, stand up, and wait to see which direction this goes. It starts better than I thought as the walk-up student is explaining that he was working on a file but lost it, and our student is trying to explaining how unless it was saved to the cloud drive it's probably gone. But just before she can explain a few ways to check where the file is saved, the walk-up student very loudly and aggressively says, "I need this file, I am not starting again," and slammed his fists down on the desk. This is when I walk over and ask him to move down the counter so we can talk. My main concern is he would pick up a mouse or keyboard and throw it at our students. I ask him to confirm what the issue is and he explains, but he is very angry. His face is red and his voice is elevated. The short version of his issue was he was working on an Excel sheet and he lost it. I try to ask him if he knew where he saved it, did he have any backups, etc. He was very frazzled at this point and I could tell he was starting to shut down. He was banging the desk repetitively and saying, "I'm not doing those 2 hours again. I could see by now he was close to a breaking point, so to try and move the situation along I motioned our students to back up from the computers and I asked the walk-up student to log in and go to his cloud storage to confirm it wasn't there. Of course the file wasn't there and he gets riled up again, so I calmly ask him how was he working it when it got lost. That's when he says there was another lettered drive in the computer and he saved it there. I asked him if he had a USB stick or anything and of course he didn't. That's when I can see the gears moving, that he must have saved it to another student's USB drive. He has another meltdown, banging the desk and saying I'm not doing IT again. After a minute and a lot of banging he looks up and I ask him if he worked on his cloud drive at all, and he nods yes. I tell him it might be possible to pull a backup, so he gets back on the keyboard and I try to walk him through the backup process. To access it you have to right click on the cloud drive and select restore previous versions. A very quick and simple process when you're not making dents in our counter. We save over 50 snapshots over 7 days, so there was quite a list to go through, but we got lucky and we did find an early file from a few days ago. I tell him just go through the backups and hopefully you can find a more complete version. He just kinda looks up after that and walks away and he hasn't been back since, so I'm assuming he found a file. Thank you. Next. This tale is a reconstruction of my recollections from some years ago. I, a jack of no other trades, consider myself not the least knowledgeable of sysadmins, although my true aspirations are somewhere else than administering servers. As a lucrative deal I ended up as a part-time sysadmin in a small company to do sysadmin duties alongside with my other responsibilities. As in many smaller companies, IT wasn't considered very high priority in this shop either. The setup was quite typical small business setup, few users, some desktops, and particularly there was one Windows server which was handling a lot of much AD files, some users' emails, ERP database, some enterprise software daemons, all that stuff. The server had been my headache for a while. It was getting old and I had tried to get some budget to replace it by warning several times about the consequences of it breaking down. I had kind of made it clear it won't be my responsibility anymore if I didn't get funds to replace it. At least I thought so. Well, surprise, I didn't get any funds and then mostly forgot about it. And so did everyone else. Discovery. One day I was texted, there was some slowness with the network. It was a quite regular type of complaint which sometimes were legit, but by a great margin most of the times there wasn't nothing really wrong besides from normal usage peaks. I usually worked remotely off-site and had other responsibilities too, so I didn't think much of it for some days. I remember kind of suspecting that it might be something with the server. Now, when I didn't hurry to check it, it must be admitted I might have had a kind of if it's something with the server, you begged for it, I don't care, deal with it type of moment. But there was the thing that it was me who would get shot first. So I went to take a look. My suspicions turned out to be right. It appeared that there was a problem with the server. And its disks. Damn. Now you have a hint what this is all about. Ironically, my first feelings were annoyance and frustration from discovering this wouldn't be to a small operation, not just a software troubleshoot and fix. Only then a constricting feeling came upon me. What does this really implicate? With further examination it appeared that of the server's RAID 1 array of 6 disks 3 were goners and 4th was getting baked just now and was almost ready. So the company had already been on extra luck for a while. It had better last for a while more. I'll never forget the feeling associated with seeing the word degraded at the RAID manager. Panic. Backups. What backups? It is a question that is just so hard to comprehend. Firstly because it's the thing you never want to encounter in the first place, and after that you are left dumbfounded by how many ways the backup thing can be botched. It's like how people cannot understand that having no backups is the same as having your only copy of every important paper in a house which is susceptible to catch fire at any moment. In this setup, as per request, the backup system was supposed to work so that alternating weeks a disk would be swapped and taken off-site to safety. But I already know you'll anticipate what's next. Yes, the system had failed. Not because of some software or configuration error, but there was no disk. Neither of the two could be found. The disk hadn't been swapped for a long time and actually they were apparently taken into better use. So, FML. There were no backups. What to do now? This was getting super creepy. I was a sysadmin totally alone with the case, with no comprehensive support from anyone, and there would be huge losses if the system and data were lost. It chills me a bit to recall the situation and the feeling there was. Thank all the deities I managed to keep myself postured despite the situation. I of course informed other people, but I was so preoccupied that I can't really much remember about their responses, but apparently they were surprised, struck, and not happy. In retrospect, the breakdown could have been a lot more devastating if I or the other guys, especially from the upper level, would have gotten out of control and started acting unthinkingly. Necromancy. Practically I had two options. Either try to salvage the critical data from the disks myself and risk them wearing out even more, or send the disks in for professional recovery, absolutely force the shop offline for that time, and in addition bear the cost of the recovery service, which would probably be a serious hit for the company. Weighing the situation, I decided there were only very bad options left and opted to look at the disks myself. At that point I definitely did not have time, sponsorship, nor interest to build everything IT in the shop from ground up, even if all the data could be salvaged. So the most straightforward, and the least direct costs incurring, course of action would be getting the old system up with new parts. Of course, when talking about a pretty much EOL server, the whole hardware within would be obsolete. The Ultra 320XC disks had been long out of fashion, and it wasn't like they could be fetched from some corner store. Luckily some were available online with express delivery. Unluckily, they weren't exactly the same as the original. Then was the time to do something, so up boots the server again with a live system. My objective now was to see if I could get the system running again to support the absolutely mandatory services. It was a hot summer then, and I suspect it might have triggered the breakdown of the last disk. Like it would have mattered, but at least I attempted to keep the remaining disks cool by setting a desk fan to blow into the chassis and the disks. If it hadn't been so desperate situation, it would have been a super hilarious scene to look at. Anyway, the disk array was already in so bad shape that not all the logical RAID disks could be fully read. Luckily the server hardware did what it was designed to do and didn't choke on disk I/O errors for good. I think I got everything that was even barely readable. It appeared that the OS partition with the most crucial base things was intact, not counting the ERP database and some other software which had been elsewhere on the array. LeFou. The procedure that followed is a bit blurry now. Basically it was some unholy mangling to drop some of the 6 drives from the array and forcing it to work with wrong sized disks. In the disk controller setup it's so easy to do a mishap and instantly burn all the remaining data. The RAID rebuild were probably some of the longest hours in my life. It was night and I waited on site the whole time thinking of the painful block level operations I would have to resort in case of a failure, or what I would do if I couldn't get the system up again at all. Slowly the rebuild got done. They were terrifying moments. I really feared the different geometry of the new disks would affect the outcome. A deep breath and a reboot. Some long seconds passed next. Despite such treatment, the Windows logo did appear. Confused, hiccuping, and throwing some indismissible protection error which took some time to troubleshoot, the system was up again. My joy got quickly underwhelmed. That was only the round 1. Nevertheless I started to have some faith that I could really make it work at least partially. So the next thing that had gotten me worried was the ERP database. It had been running on a vendor provided, read, old, MySQL instance with MySQL, InnoDB, or I don't remember whatever engine setup that I knew was error prone to backup. Anyway, the bottom line was that the original database files were most probably no good even if they had survived the file apocalypse. The shop would be still very troubled without its records. As I went through the data I confirmed the database files did not survive. Amazingly, the luck I begged in the beginning seemed to hold. An internal extra backup procedure I had set up way back had dumped the database to a part of a disk that had still been accessible. At least it felt like a miracle, although this was probably the exact situation the earlier me had been preparing for. I was somewhat unbelieving because after some examination and other restorative steps it was found that the dump had been complete, error-free, and very recent. At this point I started slowly to feel myself again. I tuned the system back as close to what it had been, made some files available and fixed some other smaller things. When driving home I felt unbelievably unreal and relieved. What a roller coaster for a day. Aftermath. So, I had, by incredible luck, managed alone to save the shop from a huge disaster. Despite considering myself a part that had caused the problem, I was still able to get myself together and clean it up. Guess what was the response of the management? Good job, but now when the server is fixed, why would we need a new one? Now when I think it, especially while writing this, there's still a hint of guilt because I consider a truly professional system administrator couldn't have let the situation escalate so badly. I know that probably to most other sysadmins this story sounds ridiculous and messed up, and I admit it is. There are several things that could be blamed on me, but in my defense the state of affairs depended a lot on conditions that were out of my reach. It was also my decision not to walk based on my personal situation I won't go further into. Thereby I beg you not to crush me here. TLDR, everything gets slowly screwed. I mostly unscrew it. Everything stays screwed up. Thank you. Next. I work at a small, non-existent, due to us being a small company, call center, and I have to deal with calls all day. We have a system in place where a call is automatically forwarded to a supervisor. We also have a system where we have a single supervisor who will review the case if the call is that long and will then direct the call back to me and assign them a supervisor. I get the call this morning from a lady who is calling from a number that I do not recognize. We speak for about 10 minutes and I ask her if she has called the right number and she confirms. I ask her to read the call number for the number and she does. I ask her if she has called the right number and she confirms. I ask her where she is located and she says I'm on the street. She tells me that her laptop is in the car. The car is parked on the street. I go into some detail explaining how her laptop is in the car and how I need to go get it to move it to the office. She hangs up before I can get to her laptop. I ask for the number of the car and the car is in the street. TLDR, the laptop is in the car. The laptop is in the street.